Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Sun Devil Learning Labs. This episode is kindergarten math, and I will be your teacher today. My name is Miss Kopp. Today we are working on math foundations. That means what skills do you guys as kindergartners need to know to become really great students? Can you count? Do you know your shapes? Do you know your colors? So those are all things that we will be working on today and throughout all of these lessons that we're doing. So like I said, my name is Miss Kopp, that's Kopp, and today is week 7, day 2 of this Sun Devil Learning Labs programming. So if you've watched our other episodes, thank you so much for tuning into another. If this is your first time joining us, we are so happy to have you. Please check out some of our other content. We've got a ton of different stories and read-alouds and themes and games. So there's a bunch of content here for you to check out. So let's look at what we're actually going to do today. So over here in our green rectangle, this is our agenda. That means what's on our schedule for today. So today we're going to do a little bit of number work. We're going to talk about our tripod grip. That means how do we hold what we write with. Then we're going to do a read aloud. Our story we're reading aloud today is called Stretch. It's a really cool one of my favorite books. And then we're going to do a little game about different stretching shapes. And as always, I will have some ways for you to practice all of those math skills at home again. So that's our agenda for today. Now we're going to talk about our materials. That means what tools do you guys need to get through this lesson with me today? So these materials you will need if you would like to practice writing our number of the day. So our number of the day today is 2. So if you want to practice writing the number 2 with me, you will need these materials. First, you'll need something to write with. Maybe a crayon, a pencil, a colored pencil, a marker, whatever you have to write with is perfect. And then you'll also need something to write on. So maybe it's a piece of paper, maybe it's some cardboard, maybe it's a whiteboard, whatever you've got available is perfect. And then last thing, I like to hang my paper vertically when I write, up on my little easel back here. I like to hang my paper vertically when I write. So if you want to do that and follow along with me and hang it vertically instead of writing horizontally on the table like you usually do, you'll just need something to hang it up with. So I like to use just a little bit of tape. Maybe you have a thumbtack or some sort of wall putty that doesn't hurt the paint on the wall. That's perfect. So something to hang your paper up with. Then, as always, we have our standards. That just means what do the people in charge think that you guys as kindergartners need to know? So do you know how to write your numbers? Do you understand how to use numbers in real life? And do you know your shapes? Do you know how to use shapes in real life too? Can you tell me shapes in the real world? So that's all things that we're going to be working on today. Just a little preview at our lesson for today. As always, we have our warm-up. It's time for our warm-up, which is our number line. These number lines are super, super helpful for us kindergartners because they help us see our numbers. A lot of the time we're just thinking about our numbers and that can get kind of confusing. So we like to see our numbers using this number line. So today we're going to count out loud. You guys can count with me if you know how to count from 0 to 10, if you can read the number line with me. Just like when we read a book, we start at the left and we move to the right. So I put a nice big arrow up here at the top for us to help us remember that when we're reading, we need to start at the left and move on over to the right. So we're going to start at the 0 and count up towards 10. So if you want to count with me, go ahead and count out loud with me. If you don't know it yet, that's totally fine. Just rewind the video a few times and get a little more familiar with the numbers we're saying and how to follow the number line. So let's begin over here at 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is our number line, 0 to 10. So if you want to get a little more practice, like I said, you could rewind the video, count with me again, or pause the video and work on reading it on your own without me in the background. However you want to use it, that number line is here for you. So today we're talking about our number of the day. I gave you a little hint earlier. It's 2. Our number of the day is 2. So here's a nice big giant 2, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. 2. So now we're going to practice writing our number 2, writing our number of the day today, 2. So to practice writing, we need to talk about how do we hold in our hands what we're going to write with. So the way we hold it is called the tripod grip. This is what we teach you when you start coming into school. We teach you the tripod grip. So to get our hands and fingers warmed up and thinking about what they need to be doing when we're writing, I have a little warm-up exercise for us. So to do this, all you need to do is touch the tip of each finger to the tip of your thumb, one at a time. So it looks like this: your pointer finger, your middle finger, your ring finger, your pinky finger. Pointer, middle, ring, pinky, pointer, middle, ring, pinky. So you can try to do it as fast as you can. Maybe if that's still pretty easy, you can try going backwards. Start at your pinky, pinky, ring, middle, pointer, pinky, ring, middle, pointer. Or you can even do your other hand. Maybe try 2 hands at once, whatever you want to do. You can pause the video here if you want to take a little more time to practice that hand warm up of touching our fingers to our thumb. That gets your hands, even after just doing it a few times, you can already feel your fingers getting a workout. So you know that they are going to be ready and thinking about how should we hold what we're writing with. So now is the time. Go ahead and pause the video and take out those materials. So you'll need something to write with, like we said, a pen or a crayon or something to write on, maybe your piece of paper, and your tape to hang that paper up. So I am going to just take a little piece of tape. Like I said, go ahead and pause the video here if you need to run and grab your materials first. But we're going to hang our paper up. Grab just a tiny little piece. You don't need to use a lot. I don't want to be wasteful of our tape. So I am reusing my paper from yesterday. I still have my number 1s drawn on here. So I'm just going to flip it upside down. And we'll work on our number 2 for today. There we go. Perfect. So my paper is taped. Now that that's out of the way, I've got my writing utensil ready. So the way we're going to hold it, that tripod grip, to do that, all we're going to use our pinky and our thumb. So we're going to pinch using a pinky, I meant our pointer finger and our thumb. We're going to pinch using our pointer finger and our thumb. We're going to pinch the bottom end of whatever you're writing with. So maybe this is a crayon, maybe it's a colored pencil, maybe it's a marker. That's perfect. You're going to take your pointer finger and your thumb and pinch the bottom end, just like that, pinching the bottom end of what you're writing with. Then last thing you need to do, take your middle finger and slide it underneath the marker. Slide it underneath the marker or the crayon or whatever you're using. Slide it underneath so it's sort of resting on top, the marker is resting on top of your finger. So when you're done, when you're doing it right, you only have 3 fingers actually touching what you're writing with. So you've got 1, 2, 3. Your other 2 fingers are just sort of hanging back here, not messing with it at all. So that is called our tripod grip. So when we're writing our number 2, that's how you should be holding whatever you're using to write with. So I have a little instruction slide on how to write our number 2. So let's take a peek at that here. We got our tripod grip. Here's our 2. So I have a little rhyme for us of how to draw our 2. It says, around and back on the railroad track. Choo, 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 choo. So the 2 is supposed to sound like that train horn, train whistle. If you've ever heard it, it's like choo, 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 choo. So we're saying choo, choo instead of choo, choo. So that's just a little rhyme to try to help us remember. It's saying around and back on the railroad track. Choo, choo. So maybe that rhyme will help you guys remember that shape a little bit better. Let's try drawing that shape on our papers. So to do that, let me get my picture full screen here for you guys. Come on, there we go. So to draw our number 2, we're going to start on the left side of our paper at the top. We're going to start and we're going to go around, like it said, around and back. We're going to make a straight line back, around and back. Oh, you can barely see my paper on the computer. Good thing I turned around and looked at that. Let me use a darker marker and see if that might show up better. Maybe like a dark red instead of that orange. Let's see if that works. So we start at the top left and you go around and back. Oh, you can see it a little bit more. I'll go over it a few times so it gets darker. Around and back. Around and back. So you can do like I'm doing, how you're tracing your same shape over and over again, or you can make 2s all over your page. It's up to you. Fill your whole paper with 2s if you've got enough room. So you're going to go start at the left and go around and back, around and back. Ta-da! So if you want to take a little more time to practice writing your 2s, pause the video right here. You can pause it so you're looking at my paper, or let me get that instruction slide back on the screen. Here we go. You can pause the video here as well so that you have these instructions on the screen for you so you remember how to write the number 2. Around and back on the railroad track. Doo-doo. So that's our little practice writing the number 2. Now we're going to talk about what are the different ways that we can see the number 2. Different ways to see the number 2. So in the center here we have our number 2, just like we saw it before. That's the way we write the number 2. Up here is how we write the word 2. If we wanted to use letters to say the number 2, this is how we would use letters to say 2. So it says T, W, O, 2, 2. Over here we have our tens chart, This is super important for us in kindergarten. We use these all the time because, again, they help us see our numbers. They help us see numbers a little bit easier. So tens chart is basically 10 empty boxes, and we fill some of those boxes up to show a number. So we're trying to show the number 2. So we filled 2 of those boxes. 1, 2. 2. That's 2 using a tens chart. Over here in the bottom left corner, we have our tally marks. We've been talking about how we use tally marks to keep track of something that's happening really fast. If you don't have time to write down all the details about something, then maybe we only have time to make a little dash, a little line. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how we keep track of something happening really fast, is using these little lines called tally marks. So here's how we show 2 tally marks. 1, 2. Perfect. 2. Over here we have a picture of 2 donuts. 2. I seem to always be putting food in these pictures, so I must be really hungry when I'm making these lessons because I'm always putting really yummy looking food into these pictures. I think yesterday we had a cake pop in our picture here for one, and today we have donuts. So maybe we'll follow that trend for a little while. So that's our number of the day today, our number 2. Now that we've gotten through our little number work, we're going to do our read aloud. So it's time for our story, which is called Stretch. This is written and illustrated by Doreen Cronin and Scott Mention. So thank you, Doreen and Scott, for creating this book for us. I'm excited to share it with you guys. Stretch with me, hands in the air. Count to 3. Hold it right there. So we can see this dog is leading, it looks like leading a bunch of different animals in stretching. He's saying, reach your hands up. And all these different kinds of animals are reaching their hands up. If you can hear that meowing in the background, it's because my cat is currently locked out of my room because she's so noisy when I am filming these things. She's even noisy when She's locked out there, so I don't know what to do. So ignore the meowing in the background. She's just stretching out there too. She just really wants to be in here stretching with us. So stretch up high for a snack in the trees. So this giraffe is stretching her neck way up high to help her friend get to these apples high up in the trees. Stretch out wide for a ride on the breeze. So birds, so birds are stretching out their wings just like he is stretching his wings out wide so that they can ride the wind. That's how they fly. Ride the breeze. Can you stretch to the ceiling? Can you stretch to the floor? So this pose they're doing is actually a yoga pose called downward dog. So it's kind of funny to me that they have a dog doing it because a dog is in the name of it. So that's a really great stretch for your back. If you want to try it at home, you just bend over and touch your toes and walk your hands out in front of you and put some weight on it. So it's a really, really good stretch for your back and for your legs. You can stretch with a whisper. You can stretch with a roar. So here's our little whispering mouse and a roaring dog. I can stretch underwater. I can stretch on a wave. I can stretch on a surfboard if I'm very, very brave. So here is our pup swimming and stretching underwater with the fish and the crabs. And over here, like he said, he's being very brave and trying to stretch on a surfboard. That's really brave to try because keeping your balance on a surfboard is super hard when you're just standing still. So it's even harder when you're trying to move around and stretch and do tricky things with your body too. Some will stretch to show you feathers. Some will stretch to show you spots. So up here we have a peacock stretching out her tail to show off her feathers. And like a leopard over here stretching to show off her spots. And it looks like the dog has even painted some spots on himself to match. A stretch that goes a stretch too far might tie you up in knots. So this kitty tried to stretch and play with her yarn and stretched up and pushed it over, and she got all tangled up in her yarn. A yawn is just a stretch that starts down deep inside. It travels up into your mouth and makes it open wide. So I just had a big yawn. This whale is having a big yawn. Maybe you just had a big yawn because we've been talking about them so much. If I were an inchworm, I'd stretch from place to place. So worms get around, especially inchworms, a type of really small worm, they get around by basically stretching their body and squishing their body and stretching their body and squishing their body. And it helps them move across the ground, just like you see in this picture right here. He's watching him move around from place to place. If I were an astronaut, I'd stretch in outer space. I wonder what that would feel like to stretch without any gravity. It would probably be kind of hard. Honestly, and look at that big suit. It would probably be really hard to be stretching in that big astronaut suit. I stretch my lungs to take a breath, then blow out nice and slow. A bubble will stretch and stretch until there's no room left to grow. Pop. Oh no, look at this gum. At first it was looking pretty good, looking pretty cool until it popped. Oh, it popped. And then, oops, it got all over him, didn't it? That doesn't look nearly as fun. If you stretch me and I stretch you, we'll stretch twice as far. Who knows what we can do? So here's his friend he was helping. Now they were able to help each other stretch. Now they don't even know what else they'll be able to do. They're able to make statues now, I guess, which is awesome. So here's a bunch of different stretching poses that our dog friend from the story is doing. So I don't know if he thought of all these himself or if some of these are yoga or exercises or what, but he looks like he's very, very bendy for a dog especially, right? So we're talking about today our game we're going to play. It talks about the different shapes that we can use our body to make when we're stretching. So our bodies can do a ton of amazing stuff. They can make all kinds of crazy movements and crazy shapes just by choosing to move in a certain way. So we're going to look at some pictures and try to figure out, what shape does it look like they are making with their bodies? So if you tuned in to yesterday, to week 7, day 1 episode, we read this book about stretching and being fit and about being healthy, following our theme for this week. And these are some pictures of the different stretches from that book. So these ones are pretty cool. These are the stretches I thought looked most like shapes. So let's start with this one up here in this top left corner. What shape do you see in this picture? Go ahead and pause the video and say it out loud. Point to it on your screen. Don't actually touch your computer screen because we don't want to hurt the computer. Just hover your finger over it and maybe trace the shape you think you see on the screen. What shape do you see over here? I see a triangle. She sort of makes this triangle with her arms and her legs sitting like that, right? A triangle. Let's look at the little boy next to her. What shape do you see him making? He's stretching his hips and his knees when he sits that way. What shape do you see? Go ahead and pause the video again. Say it out loud. Talk about it with somebody. What shape do you see this boy making? Go ahead and trace it on the screen again with your finger. Remember, don't actually touch, just trace it. What shape do you see him making? Here's a hint. What's the name of this shape? This is a rectangle. He's making a kind of rectangle shape, right? His shoulders and his legs, they all fit in this rectangle shape. So let's look at this girl over here on this top right in this yellow shirt. What shape do you see her making? What shape can you see in that picture? Go ahead and again, pause the video, say it out loud, trace it with your finger. What shape do you see her making with her legs and her arms, her head? Here's a hint. What is that shape called? That is a triangle. This is another triangle-shaped pose. You could probably say it's a few different shapes, but triangle was the first shape that I saw when I was looking at her. What shape do you see over here? This is a really amazing back bend. It's called that because you can see your back is bending. So when you're leaning back like that and doing poses like that, those are called back bends. So she's doing a great back bend. You can see her back is super, super bent. So she's getting a great stretch. What shape do you see her making with that stretch? I see. What is this shape? A little hint. This shape is, this is a circle. I saw her making a circle. You could probably say she's making a square too, but she is making a really cool shape just by stretching and working her back out a little bit. What about this boy next to her? I talked about him yesterday. His headstand is really amazing. There are people who exercise for years and years and they still can't do a headstand like that. So he's doing something really, really cool. What shape do you see from him? What shape do you see his body making? Go ahead and pause the video and say it out loud. What shape do you see? Here's a little hint. What's the name of that shape? That, my friends, is another rectangle. We've got another rectangle, yes. So or you could also maybe just say he's making a line too, right? So you can say a couple different things. I'm just thinking of the shapes that I see first. So this last one is pretty fun. I got a little more creative with this last picture. What shape do you see this boy making with his body, with his legs and his arms and his head? Go ahead and pause the video and say it out loud. What shape do you see? I'll give you a hint what shape I saw. A star. A star. So, like I said, it's not perfect. You have to use your imagination just a little bit. But if his arms were just a little higher, then I think it would have been the perfect fit into that box. So, that is our star. So those are just a couple of different shapes we see in real life. It's really important to know our shapes because we use them all the time in all kinds of different scenarios. So always be thinking about your shapes. I have a few different ways to practice at home. Practice getting more familiar with your shapes. It's super important for kindergartners to know their shapes and know the names and be able to point them out in real life. So a great way to practice with shapes at home is actually to help put away dishes. Parents, I'm sure you love to hear that. Help put away the dishes, kids. It really is a great way to practice sorting and also knowing your shapes. Try to name the different shapes of all your different pieces, maybe the shapes of your plates, the shapes of your bowls, of your cups, of your silverware. There are all kinds of cool and funky designs now that some people may have really interesting shaped plates. Some people may have square plates or circle plates or octagon shaped plates, who knows? So do your best to try to name the different shapes of the dishes you have in your own home. If you have kid-friendly scissors, you can practice using those scissors to cut out different shapes from paper and cardboard in the recycling so that those materials that are getting thrown out anyways help your kiddos out with those shape skills and with cutting skills, that hand-eye coordination. And then I have another activity on the next slide. It's to give you some practice with counting and naming shapes. So for this activity, let me get on over there. You can screenshot this page and print it out if you want your kids to write on it. You can screenshot it and let them edit it on the device if you are not able to access a printer, or you can just pause the video right here and do it in your head if you're not able to do either of those things. That's perfect as well. So all you need to do is count the shapes, and if you're able to, write the numbers right next to which one it's asking. So for example, mark each shape as you count so you can keep track. So how many of this smiley face do you see on this picture? How many? I see just one. So I would write a 1 right here. So that's our print off activity for today. If you want to take advantage of that, that is all yours. Go ahead and screenshot, print whatever you want. And I will go back. You can screenshot this page as well if you want these instructions saved for you too. So that was our little shapes lesson for today. It's following our theme this week of being fit, being healthy, different ways to keep our body nice and happy and healthy. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. It has been a lot of fun teaching you today. I will be here the rest of this week doing this fit and health themed week. And again, my name is Miss Kopp, and it's been a real pleasure. I hope you guys stay safe and you're practicing your math skills until I see you next time.